The first time I saw her picture, she had no face. The explosion had taken that from her, ripped her skin like paper, charred her tiny hands into twisted claws. She couldn't have been more than 6. The medics had tried to keep the photo out of public release, but someone leaked it. And once Earth saw what the Empire did to a child, well, something ancient cracked open in us. We'd played their game long enough. They called it an accident, a misfire in the outer colony of Amaris III. A mistake during a strategic cleansing of rebel sympathizers. But my sister didn't raise a rebel. She raised a quiet, curious kid who liked to feed birds and hum songs she made up on the spot. Her name was Ellie, and the Galactic Empire vaporized her like she was dirt under a boot. The official report never even mentioned her name. I was in orbit above Titan when the news came through, sitting in a steel chair, boots on the desk, watching a rerun of Earth boxing matches from the 2100s. Ellie had once asked me why people punched each other for fun. I'd told her, because it's better than keeping that rage inside. She'd nodded like she understood, even though she couldn't possibly have. But I understood. The moment I saw her name listed under civilian casualties, everything in me broke open like a fault line. The fire, the smoke, the silence afterward. It looped in my head like static. I didn't cry. Crying was for before the Empire taught us what mercy meant to them. Now I planned to show them what human rage looked like. The Empire had been grooming Earth as a cooperative species for years, feeding us scraps of tech, giving us token roles in their armies, sending their diplomats to pat us on the head like good little primitives, and we'd played along, sat at their tables, smiled at their false praise, even sent our best soldiers to die in their pointless border wars. But they crossed a line with Ellie. And deep down, I think they knew it. Within days, Earth's atmosphere changed. Protests turned into riots. Cities dimmed their lights in mourning. Every civilian shuttle stopped accepting Imperial passes. Human colonies on Ganymede, Europa, Mars, all silent. Quiet like a fuse before detonation. Then came the broadcast. I watched it from the barracks, surrounded by other soldiers, men who had seen death in a dozen systems and didn't flinch at blood. But when the feed came on, we stood like statues. Our president, standing in front of a black flag bearing the silhouette of Earth, didn't smile. His eyes were fire. "This was not a mistake," he said, voice cold. "This was a message, and we received it." One by one, systems began to defect. Outposts on Venus shut down Empire surveillance. Human tech specialists started disabling alien AIs remotely. Soldiers, our soldiers, began removing the insignias of the Galactic Empire from their uniforms and burning them in the streets. I watched my captain cry for the first time in years. He held up his rifle and whispered, "For Ellie." War was coming. Not rebellion, not protest. War. And Earth wasn't fighting for survival anymore. We were fighting for vengeance. The first retaliation wasn't a missile. It was a silence. 3 days after Ellie's death, the Empire's relay station on Mars, orbital node C9, went offline. No explosion, no damage. It just went dark. The Empire scrambled to respond. They sent a scout frigate to investigate. Contact was lost within minutes, then a second. Same result. The third ship they sent broadcasted one image back before disappearing. A human soldier, face painted in ash and blood, holding a severed alien head like a trophy. The look in his eyes wasn't hatred. It was colder than that. It was focus. The Empire called it terrorism. Earth called it Day One. I was deployed to the Europa front 2 days later. Our unit used to answer to the Empire. Now we had no chain of command, no orders, no permission. We just had targets. I'd served under Captain Reeves for 6 years. We weren't friends. We didn't laugh together or share stories over drinks, but I respected the hell out of him. He was the kind of man who never flinched under fire, never barked useless commands just to sound in control. When he gave the kill order on the Imperial outpost buried under Europa's ice crust, no one questioned it. They made it personal, he said. So we respond like it's personal. The plan was simple. Infiltrate the comms base, disable the jammer tower, take control of their orbital defense grid and use it against them. We didn't wear standard Earth uniforms anymore. No need. The war wasn't between armies. It was between instincts, ours to avenge, theirs to dominate. My chest plate was painted with a single word in red. Child. Let them see it before they died. Let them remember. We landed at night. If you could call Europa's slow spin night. The sky above was a dull silver haze, the light of Jupiter bleeding through like a watching god. Snow crunched under our boots as we approached the base. No alarms, no sentries, just a quiet confidence from the Empire, thinking humans wouldn't dare strike so soon. They didn't understand us. The first kill was clean. Reeves slit the guard's throat and lowered him silently to the ground. The second wasn't. I dragged the insectoid officer from his post, smashed his mandibles against the console until they snapped off, and whispered Ellie's name into the bleeding hole where his face used to be. That moment did something to me, unlocked something I didn't know I had. Revenge wasn't justice. It wasn't even satisfaction. It was just survival wearing a meaner mask. We moved room by room, methodical, brutal. Reeves used to give enemies a chance to surrender. Not anymore. Every alien we found got two options: die with a scream or die with a whisper. Most chose the former. It took us 22 minutes to clear the base. 12 Imperial bodies. Not one human lost. I stood in the control room, watching the orbital defense grid blink into our control. It was surreal. Months ago, this same system would have vaporized us for even approaching unauthorized. Now we held it in our hands like a stolen crown. Reeves activated the uplink. "This is Captain John Reeves of the Human Battalion once stationed under the Empire's Joint Fleet," he said into the system-wide channel. "Effective immediately, Earth no longer recognizes the authority of the Galactic Empire. This base is now under human control. Any attempt to reclaim it will be considered an act of war." He paused, staring into the camera. "And we're very good at war." The message was broadcast across 4 systems. You could almost hear the silence that followed. The Empire didn't respond with diplomacy. They sent a cruiser, bigger than anything we'd ever faced. It entered Europa's orbit within hours, powered by solar cores and armed with planetary disintegration cannons. We expected a warning shot, a standoff. What we got was total bombardment. The ground shook beneath our feet. Explosions lit the horizon. The sky turned red. But their mistake was arrogance. They didn't know we'd hijacked their defense grid. They didn't know we'd armed the base with scavenged plasma coils from our old Alliance days. When they got close enough, we triggered the grid. The cruiser lit up like a dying star. 1 minute it was there, majestic, cold, untouchable, and the next, it was 1,000 flaming shards raining down into the icy wastelands below. My earpiece erupted in screams from the Imperial channel. We recorded it all, every second of their pride shattering against Europa's ice. And we sent the footage to Earth. Within hours, Earth's population rose to their feet like one living organism. Volunteers by the millions. Civilians converting cargo ships into war vessels. Families tattooing the names of lost loved ones and boarding transports to the front lines. It wasn't just soldiers anymore. It was fathers. It was brothers. It was husbands who saw their little girl's face in Ellie's picture and felt something snap. The Empire began evacuating non-essential personnel from human zones. That's how scared they were, not of our technology, but of what we'd become. the wild thing in the corner that had taken enough lashes and finally bit back. I started getting messages from other battalions. Tell me where they are. Put me on the next kill squad. Let me burn what they built. Humanity's soul had shifted. We were no longer the hungry species trying to earn a seat at their galactic table. We were the executioner sharpening the blade, and the galaxy was watching. Back on Earth, the president held a closed-door war council. We never had one of those before. War used to be something we helped with. Now it was ours. He stood before the generals and said something that shook the room. This war will not be won by mercy. It will be won by memory. Every life they took, we remember. Every child they silenced, we scream their name through fire. The room stood silent. Then, one by one, every man in that room pounded the table and spoke one name. Ellie. It became a symbol, a war cry, a reminder that humans don't just retaliate, they remember. The Galactic Empire had built itself on control, order, and fear. But they forgot what happens when a species has nothing left to fear. You don't corner an animal unless you're ready for teeth. 2 weeks later, I was redeployed to Saturn's moons. Target, Titan Command Base, the Empire's largest communications node in the sector. Intel said they'd fortified it with 2 legions of elite soldiers. What they didn't know was that we weren't sending a fleet. We were sending 5 men. Suicide mission? Maybe. But they'd learned by now. Humans don't mind dying if they know it means taking you with them. We dropped in low, using blackout tech stripped from the wreckage of their cruiser on Europa. The landing was rough. I busted a rib when we hit the surface, but adrenaline kept me moving. Titan's surface was hell. Liquid methane seas, freezing winds, and a pale orange fog thick enough to swallow your hand. Perfect cover. Reeves led the way, as always. We breached the outer perimeter and made it to the power core. That was our target, not the command center. Take out the heart and let the rest die on its knees. They had reinforced it, sure, but they weren't expecting humans to march straight into their jaws. We planted charges, timed for 20 minutes. We fought our way out like demons in borrowed skin. We didn't shoot to disable. We shot to destroy. I ripped the rifle from a lizard-faced Imperial and beat another with the barrel until my gloves dripped. By the time we made it back to the drop point, 2 of us were dead. But when that base exploded, when the sky lit up and the Empire's strongest node crumbled under our rage, it was worth it. Their transmissions went silent across 5 systems. Earth cheered. The war had a face now. Not a leader, a ghost, Reeves, me, the nameless dead. They started calling us the Black Suns, men forged in grief and fed on vengeance. The Empire tried spinning it as terrorist propaganda. But even their own soldiers began defecting. Even they knew, you don't kill a child and expect forgiveness. You kill a child and you earn the wrath of Earth. The Empire was cracking, not from the outside, from the inside. They still had fleets, massive ones. Still had power and money and numbers. But none of that mattered when their soldiers started looking over their shoulders before they slept. We hadn't just beaten them on Europa and Titan. We'd made them afraid. Fear spreads faster than bullets, and humans are experts at delivering it. The name Black Suns had started as a soldier's joke. Something barked over encrypted comms during battle. Now it was a ghost story. Imperial officers reported entire squads refusing to patrol human sectors. Some claimed they saw shadows moving through locked hangars. Some said they heard whispering in their barracks when no one else was there. The whisper always said the same word. Ellie. We didn't create that myth. The Empire did. But we were more than happy to play along. I sat in a makeshift command cell on a stolen asteroid base near Proxima Gate, reviewing our next target, an intelligence vault buried inside the floating fortress of Kalos 9, deep in Imperial space, heavy security. Constant patrols, exactly the kind of place they thought humans would avoid. We didn't avoid it. We chose it. Reeves stood across from me, chewing a stim capsule, eyes bloodshot but focused. He didn't sleep anymore. None of us did. Not well, anyway. Sleep was where the screams lived. "They'll never see it coming," he said, nodding towards the plans. "They still think we're scared to die." "They don't understand," I said quietly. "We died the day she did. Kalos 9 wasn't just a vault. It was where the Empire stored records of every human colony, base, and alliance activity over the past decade. Inside those files were the names of collaborators, humans who'd sold out Earth for prestige, trade, or power. Reeves called them ghosts in flesh. Traitors. We had a list now, and soon they'd have a reckoning. We moved fast, inserted with exoshells dropped from a cargo ship flying Imperial banners, slipped right through their scanners. They didn't suspect the cargo held 2 heavily armed operatives covered in radiation blankets and breathing recycled carbon. Disgusting? Sure, but efficient. We breached the underbelly of the station through an old vent system no one had used in years. The Empire didn't think like us. They planned for fleets, sieges, diplomacy. They weren't ready for rats crawling in through the sewer with knives in their teeth. The halls were silent. Clean. Sterile. We moved past alien tech, humming with static, past banners bearing the symbol of their rule. 3 rings circling a crown, painted in gold. Reeves paused, stared at one of those banners for a second too long. "I used to believe in their system," he muttered. "Thought they had it figured out, until they murdered a kid and called it protocol." We reached the vault and disabled the guards quietly. The doors hissed open to reveal rows of glowing data cores, each filled with records. Communications. Black Ops, collaborator files. Reeves inserted the extraction spike. The download would take 5 minutes. I watched the hallway, thought of Ellie, the way her shoes lit up when she ran, the sound of her laugh when I used to visit home. She called me Iron Man, even though I didn't wear a suit. Now all I wore was guilt. Download complete. But as we turned to leave, an alarm blared, one we didn't trigger. Reeves cursed, looking up at the red lights washing the corridor. "They've got motion sensors on the access ring. It wasn't on the schematics." "Then we fight." We weren't equipped for a full shootout. But we didn't care. We were already ghosts. I slammed the lockdown panel, sealing the corridor behind us. Then we moved. Fast. Brutal. Blasting through a security checkpoint, cutting down alien troopers in blue armor. One reached for his comm. I shot through his hand. Reeves shot through his head. We made it to the extraction point, bleeding, breathless, laughing through cracked ribs. As our dropship pulled us away from Kalos 9, the explosions started. Not ours. The Empire had initiated their purge protocol, destroying their own station to prevent further leaks. Dozens of their own agents gone in seconds. All because of us. We didn't speak on the ride back. We didn't need to. The files we stole changed everything. Earth now had proof. Evidence that the death of Ellie wasn't a rogue incident. It was sanctioned. The Empire had suspected Amaris III was harboring subversive thought patterns among its humans. They hadn't just targeted rebels. They targeted children to send a message saying, "You are property, obey or burn." Our answer? Burn you. The files also listed human collaborators, names we recognized, faces that used to smile at peace conferences, sit in Earth councils, shake hands with aliens while pretending to represent our species. They sold us out. And now we had their locations. Reeves called for a silent vote among the Black Suns, all present, all armed. The question, what do we do with the traitors? The vote was unanimous. Purge. We moved through human space like a cleansing fire. One by one, the traitors fell. Some begged, some fought, some cried and claimed they didn't know what the Empire was planning. They all died the same. One of them, a former diplomat named Dryden, tried to offer us credits, claimed he could buy us off. Said we were just pawns in a larger game. Reeves looked him in the eye and asked, "Would you have sold Ellie too?" Then shot him through both kneecaps and left him to bleed in an abandoned dome with nothing but a loaded pistol and one bullet. Let him choose his end. We weren't just fighting a war anymore. We were purging humanity of weakness. And the galaxy was watching. The Empire's broadcasts had changed. No more smug confidence. Now their leaders appeared with bags under their eyes. Twitching every time a door opened, they demanded Earth return to diplomatic channels, claimed they regretted civilian losses, and wanted peaceful resolution. No one listened. We hijacked one of their broadcasts, sent out a single message across all known systems. The video showed Ellie's charred body. Then it showed Titan's destruction. Then Europa. Then Kylos 9's fireball collapse. Then Reeves. No rank, no politics. Just a soldier holding the burned photo of a child. "She was 6, he said. "You killed her. You called it protocol. Now we are the protocol, and we do not forgive." That was the moment the war shifted, not just in blood, but in perception. Other species, those watching silently, started pulling back from the Empire. Quietly, but noticeably. Trade routes closed. Non-human diplomats refused meetings. In the shadows of the stars, the Empire stood alone. Because now everyone feared the same thing. What if Earth wins? What if these primitives, these emotional, vengeful humans actually win? The thought alone was enough to turn the galaxy's stomach. But not ours. We didn't fight for approval. We fought because Ellie would never get her 7th birthday. Because we remembered. And the Empire would too. There's a kind of silence before a collapse. A heavy, brittle quiet. Like a dam about to break. That's where the Empire was now, smiling through gritted teeth while its insides rotted from fear. We didn't need more weapons. We didn't need bigger ships. We just needed time. Because the Empire was already dying. And the best part? They were doing it to themselves. The collapse began on Osirak Prime, one of their central supply worlds. Civil unrest broke out in the slums. Species the Empire had ruled for generations suddenly refusing to report to work. No mining, no food processing, no trade. It wasn't Earth that organized the riots. It wasn't us at all. But it was because of us. The message we sent, Ellie's image, Reeves' broadcast, had gone deeper than we expected. It didn't just hit humans. It infected the whole system. Because for the first time, someone had dared say what everyone else had whispered for decades. The Empire isn't strong, it's just loud, and humans had proved that all the tech in the galaxy means nothing if you're not willing to bleed. Whole species started watching Earth like it was a storm on the horizon. Dangerous, ugly, unstoppable. On Osirak Prime, the protests turned to firebombs. Then full rebellion. Imperial troops opened fire on civilians. Hollows of their brutality spread like a virus. In response, 4 of the Empire's own generals defected. They didn't side with Earth. They just stopped listening to orders. That's when the Empire's Supreme Chancellor, some bloated gelatinous thing named Clorvok, announced martial law across 12 sectors. And that was a mistake. The more control they tried to enforce, the more control they lost. We didn't even have to fight anymore. We just had to exist. But Reeves wasn't satisfied watching them eat themselves alive. That wasn't enough for him. Not anymore. "We finish it," he said, slamming his fist into the map table. We cut the head off. No more warnings, no more messages. We kill the Chancellor, and we burn their throne world to ash. We were in the middle of deep space, hiding in a drifting asteroid field between Imperial patrols. Our ship, the Hammer, was old, gutted, held together with scavenged parts and determination. It stank of oil, smoke, and blood. It felt like home. "Assassination?" I asked. "That's your endgame?" "No," Reeves said. "It's just the start of the end. They need to feel what we felt. Personal, violent, unforgivable." We voted again. Unanimous. We had the Chancellor's location, an orbital sanctuary orbiting the Empire's throne world, protected by dreadnoughts, shield arrays, and enough weapons to make a moon tremble. Didn't matter. We were already dead men. All we had left was purpose. We carved a path through space like falling knives, jump drives burning red, no comms, silence, no stealth. For once we wanted them to see us coming. They scrambled to stop us, sent interceptors. We shot them down, sent warning beacons. We ignored them, sent peace envoys. Reeves sent back their heads. The closer we got to the Chancellor's orbital ring, the more chaotic their defenses became. Ships colliding, friendly fire, confusion. Half of them didn't even know who was in charge anymore. We breached the outer rim with a ramming maneuver, crashed straight through the sanctuary's hangar bay, tearing through metal and flesh like a goddamn fist from hell. Alarms, screams, blood on the walls. My armor was cracked, my arm dislocated. I didn't stop moving. We tore through the sanctuary with one goal, the Chancellor's chamber. They tried to slow us down, sent guards, drones, elite warriors. We carved through them, left them twitching in their own fluids. I kicked open the Chancellor's chamber doors. There he was. Clorvok, all 9 feet of him, slick-skinned, jeweled, hovering on some ornate anti-grav throne, surrounded by servants too scared to breathe. Reeves raised his weapon. Clorvok lifted one slimy hand. We regret what happened on Amaris 3, truly. The loss of the child was... that word. Loss. As if Ellie had just wandered off somewhere. Misplaced. A casualty. Reeves shot him in the mouth before he finished the sentence. The Chancellor's head exploded into the back wall, a mixture of violet blood and shattered bone. Silence followed. Then Reeves turned to the holocam array and activated the broadcast system. It was time for our final message. He stared into the lens, voice low. Calm. Honest. You ruled with fear. You taught us that mercy is weakness. You murdered our children and expected submission. But you forgot one thing. He held up a scorched photograph of Ellie. We remember. Then he dropped the picture on the Chancellor's body and walked away. That was the image we sent across the stars. That picture on a corpse, smoldering on the floor of their empire's throne. The response? Collapse. 3 hours later, the throne world of Etherian 1, capital of the Galactic Empire, went dark. Entire command structures vanished. Civil wars ignited across their sectors. Governors assassinated. Communications hijacked by rogue factions. Every species that had lived under the Empire's thumb saw the opening and took it. Earth didn't have to fight anymore. The galaxy was fighting for us. But not everyone celebrated. I stood on the deck of the Hammer, watching the wreckage drift outside the viewport. Broken ships, abandoned stations, the skeleton of a civilization. It felt hollow. Reeves approached. "It's over." I didn't answer. "You don't look happy." I looked at him. "We killed a system, but Ellie's still gone." He nodded slowly. "She'll never come back, but now they'll never forget her." Silence again. Then he handed me a small data drive. "Final mission," he said. "Your call." I took it, looked at it. "What's on it?" The last target. The commander who authorized the Amaris strike. Not just a name, a location, a face. He's in hiding. Deep space. I clenched the drive so hard it creaked. We'd won. Earth had risen. The Empire had fallen. But there was still one ember left. One last breath from the monster that started it all. I looked out at the stars. "We finish it," I said. "War leaves a silence behind. But it's not peace. It's just the sound of ghosts breathing. The Empire was gone. Their palaces empty. Their laws burned. Their ships reduced to drifting coffins. Earth had risen like a nightmare and become something the stars would never forget." But I hadn't forgotten him, the man who gave the order. Not just the one who pressed the button, the one who authorized the death of civilians, the one who signed off on tactical sanitation of subsystem Amaris 3. He was the reason Ellie's face looked the way it did in that photo. The reason my sister never smiled again. The reason the war started. His name was Commander Abin Rel. I read his file on the data drive Reeves handed me. 25 years in the Empire's intelligence command, operated in the shadows, never showed his face in public. No trace of him in the official holovids, no medals, no speeches, just blood on paper, bureaucratic genocide, an expert at killing quietly. We found his location buried in a secure relay from Kylos 9. Reeves had it decrypted, one redacted string of coordinates, one forgotten station, Bastion Theta 6, a cold, isolated research node drifting in uncharted space beyond the Narek expanse, a place even the Empire barely mapped. No civilization, no trade routes, just darkness. Perfect place to hide a coward. The hammer was half falling apart, its hull held together by scavenged plating and vengeance. Reeves didn't come on this one. Neither did the rest of the Black Suns. This mission wasn't for Earth. It was for her. I left a note on my bunk. "Don't come after me. I'm finishing what we started." They understood. I spent the 2-week jump to Theta 6 with nothing but static for company. No music, no books, just that photo of Ellie, worn at the edges, still faintly burned from the Titan mission. I kept it on the dash, looked at it before sleep, let it cut into me, because I didn't want to forget what she looked like before the Empire turned her into ashes. The station appeared like a phantom, black against black. No lights, no beacons, a forgotten corpse orbiting a dead star. The perfect place for a monster to rot in peace. I docked manually, disabling all systems to stay invisible, slipped through a maintenance hatch. The halls inside were silent, cold, dust thick on the walls. This place hadn't seen visitors in years. I moved slow, rifle drawn, sensors sweeping. No alarms, no defense grid, just the hum of a failing generator somewhere deep in the bowels. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Not rushed, not afraid, just routine. As if whoever was here didn't think they'd ever be found. I followed the sound, down into the lower levels, past shattered labs, past cages filled with ancient skeletons, failed experiments from a forgotten war, then into a chamber that reeked of stale air and arrogance. There he was, Abin Rel, human, mid-60s, thin, bald, face drawn like melted wax, sitting at a desk, typing on a dusty console like the galaxy outside didn't exist. He looked up, didn't flinch, didn't reach for a weapon, just stared at me with the cold detachment of a man who still thought he was untouchable. "I wondered when you'd come," he said. I raised the rifle. "Don't talk." But he did anyway. "You're not the first," he said, standing slowly. "There were others. They came. They screamed. They cried. You know what I told them? I said, it wasn't personal." That's when I hit him. One punch, then another. The rifle clattered to the floor as I grabbed him by the collar and drove him against the wall. His head cracked against metal. Blood ran from his lip. He didn't fight back. He just smiled. "You think you're justice," he whispered. "But you're just evolution. The Empire falls. Something worse replaces it. It's always been that way. Always will." I pulled out the photo, shoved it in his face. "You remember her?" He looked, blinked, shrugged. "Collateral." I almost killed him right there, almost let rage blind me, but I wanted him to see it, to feel what he never gave his victims. I forced him to his knees, tied him down, set the holo recorder up. "You're going to confess," I said. "Every decision, every order, every child, every lie." He laughed. "You think a confession will bring her back?" "No," I said, leveling the rifle at his kneecap. "But it'll make me sleep again." The screaming started then. 1 hour in, he started talking. 4 hours in, he was begging. 8 hours in, he admitted everything. The children of Amaris, the sterilization of the Adari tribes, the mind control experiments on prisoners from Earth colonies, all of it. I broadcasted the confession from the station's long-range array. Sent it out in every known language. Aben-Rel, the architect of genocide, reduced to tears, admitting his sins to the galaxy. The last echo of the Empire exposed. Then I walked him into the airlock. He begged, of course he did, tried to reason, said he could be useful, said the galaxy would descend into chaos without men like him. I showed him the photo one last time. She was 6. Then I opened the lock, watched his body drift into the black. No screams, just silence. The kind that means it's done. I stayed in the station another night, drank the last of my rations, slept on a bench with the photo clutched to my chest. When I woke, I felt something I hadn't in years. Empty. Not in a bad way. Just finished. The hammer was waiting when I returned. Reeves was there, no words, just a nod. He'd seen the broadcast. The whole galaxy had. "What now?" I asked him. He looked out the viewport, at the stars, at the broken empire. "We rebuild," he said. "Not an empire, not a system, something else, something that remembers." I looked at Ellie's photo one last time, then slipped it into my jacket pocket. She was gone. But she started something bigger than any of us, and now the galaxy would never forget her name. Victory wasn't a moment. It wasn't a battle or a surrender or a broadcast. It was an uncomfortable silence after blood dries, and no one knows what to say. The Empire was dead. The last loyalist systems had collapsed after Aben-Rel's confession went viral across the galaxy. Civil wars consumed the rest. Former allies turned on each other. Vassal states declared independence. And the name Galactic Empire became a curse no one dared speak. Earth didn't declare victory. We didn't need to. Everyone else did it for us. What we didn't expect was the galaxy turning toward us, waiting, like we were next in line. There was no official ceremony, no throne handed down. No crown, just power and silence, and 100 broken species staring at the humans with the same question. Now that you've burned the Empire, what are you going to build? Reeves was the first to understand it. We weren't just the rebels anymore. We were the ones holding the sword. And every survivor was watching to see where we pointed it next. He hated it. "This isn't what we fought for," he said one night as we floated above the ruins of an old Imperial moon station. "We didn't bleed just to take their throne." "Then what did we bleed for?" I asked. He didn't answer, because truth was, none of us knew anymore. The Black Suns disbanded quietly. Some went home, some vanished, some stayed in orbit, drifting from system to system like ghosts still looking for a fight. Peace didn't sit well with men who'd lived on adrenaline and death for too long. I tried going home. Back to Earth. Back to the same old sky, the same streets, the house my sister used to live in. She wasn't there. Of course she wasn't. Just an empty yard and a broken swing set rusting in the grass. And I realized something right then. Revenge gives you purpose. But peace? Peace gives you emptiness. Ellie was still gone. And the galaxy still didn't know what the hell to do with us. Earth's politicians tried to step in, started calling for diplomatic reconstruction, whatever the hell that means. Trade talks, joint councils, peacekeeping forces. They sent ambassadors to burned systems with fake smiles and promises of balance. But the galaxy didn't trust peacekeepers who'd once been executioners. The Adari refused Earth envoys outright, called us Blood Kings, and sealed their borders. The Relathi sent a delegation, then mysteriously disappeared in orbit above Mars. Their ship was found weeks later with every crew member dead. No wounds, just terror in their eyes. They called it a systems failure. But those of us who fought in the war knew better. Someone made a point. The galaxy was still bleeding. It didn't need a leader. It needed time to hate. And Earth, we were too big, too loud, too dangerous now. We became what the Empire had once been, only without meaning to. And Reeves? He disappeared not long after that. Left a note. No forwarding comms. No destination. All it said was, "We became what we killed. I can't wear this face anymore." I never saw him again, but I still hear him. Sometimes. Especially when I walk through the ruins of the old cities Earth's diplomatic task forces now patrol. The same voice in my head when I see another race bow their head to a human diplomat. The same voice whispering when we open a new station in a conquered system and call it liberation. We weren't conquerors, but we weren't heroes either. We were just what was left. And that's what scared them. Because no matter how many alliances we signed, no matter how many speeches Earth's president gave about unity and recovery, the rest of the galaxy still saw us for what we really were. The species that didn't break. We weren't smarter, or more advanced, or more righteous. We were just the ones who wouldn't kneel. And once you see a creature fight with that kind of rage, once you watch them burn down an empire because of one little girl, you don't ever forget. You fear them, even when they smile, even when they say peace, because you know, deep down, that if you ever push them too far again, they'll remind you exactly what humans are capable of. I sat one evening at an old war memorial on Ganymede, built where one of the worst firefights of the rebellion took place. They'd turned it into a garden now, stones, trees, peaceful, and at the center of it was her name. Ellie Marin, age 6, Amaris 3, no statue, no long quote, just her name. And the war she started. I watched as a group of alien children passed by. Adari, maybe. Or Arxen. Hard to tell anymore. They paused, looked at the name, whispered, then walked on. That's what legacy is. Not speeches, not power, just a name carved in stone that outlives the fire. A few days later, I received a message. No sender, no location, just coordinates. I hesitated. Old instincts flared. Could be a trap. Could be nothing. Could be Reeves. I took the hammer, still functional, still ugly, and burned through 3 systems to reach the site. It was an old mining moon, long abandoned. No lights, no patrols, but someone had built something there, a bunker, hidden. I found him inside, older, thinner, scarred, but still Reeves. He said nothing for a long time, then handed me a data chip. "What's this?" I asked. "A choice," he said. "One we didn't have before, one you can make now." Inside was everything. the names of every surviving rebel, every sympathizer, every Imperial sleeper agent still breathing, every loose thread. "Why?" I asked. He looked at me, eyes hollow. "Because they'll come back. Not the Empire, but something else, something worse. Power never stays dead. You think we've won, but we only bought time. Someone's going to rebuild the bones of what we broke." "So what are you saying?" I asked. "We start killing again?" "I'm saying we don't get to stop." That was the last time I saw him. I still haven't opened the chip. Some nights I stare at it. Wonder what kind of monster I'll become if I use it. Wonder if Ellie would have wanted that. Then I remember how she died. And some nights I wonder if the only reason I haven't used it yet is because I'm still pretending this war is over. But it's not. It never really is. Because the galaxy didn't change when the Empire died. It just learned to hold its breath a little longer. It started with whispers, like all bad things do. They called themselves the Dominion. At first we thought it was just another fringe movement, some ex-military extremists clinging to the glory days. Kids wearing Black Sun's symbols like war was a fashion statement, young, angry, and drunk on the history they didn't live. But then came the raids, not sanctioned, not strategic, just brutal. They hit the remnants of Empire loyalist systems first. No trials, no demands, just fire and silence. Entire outposts gone, executed live on the networks for the galaxy to watch. Justice in the shadow of Earth. That was their slogan. And that's when I knew. This wasn't rebellion, this was legacy. Our legacy. We'd killed the Empire to stop injustice. These kids were killing to inherit it. They used our tactics, our tech, even our language. Every time I saw a Dominion broadcast, I heard echoes of Reeves in their speeches. Only hollow, stripped of soul, sharpened into something mechanical. I spent most of my days in hiding by then. No longer on Earth, I couldn't bear it. Too many smiles masking guilt. Too many streets named after fallen war heroes who never asked to be remembered. I lived on a station above Ceres. Quiet, forgotten. I didn't use my real name. Just went by J. Didn't matter. They found me anyway. The message came at midnight. Cold, clinical, and too familiar. To the last of the Black Suns, the Dominion remembers. We have questions. You have answers. Come willingly, or we come differently. They signed it with the Black Sun's crest. But it was off. Ours had been a blood-soaked insignia, gritty, ugly, because that's what we were. Theirs? Digitally polished. Clean, marketed, a lie. I didn't run, didn't hide. I went, because part of me wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, there was something human left in them. Their base was on Damar Station, floating above the shattered moons of Levos Prime. The approach was chilling, rows of sleek ships, newer than anything Earth had ever commissioned. Not salvaged, manufactured. Someone was funding them. Someone big. And when I docked, I saw the truth I'd been dreading. It wasn't a movement. It was a government, uniforms, order, infrastructure, but no warmth, no soul, just cold precision masked as peace. A Dominion officer met me at the port. Young, no older than 25. Human, bright eyes, dead smile. "Commander Wren will see you now," he said. Not please, not welcome, just instruction. The walk through the station felt surreal. Walls painted with murals of the Black Suns, of Reeves, of me, stylized, glorified. As if we'd been saints instead of broken killers. And then I met her. Commander Lyra Wren. She sat behind a war table that looked eerily like the one Reeves used to use. Holographic systems flickering, movement data flowing across the screens. She stood when I entered. Tall, composed, dressed in Dominion gray. "You're him," she said. I was. She studied me like a scientist staring at a test subject. No awe, no reverence, just analysis. We studied everything you did, everything Reeves built. The strategy, the momentum, the rhetoric. You changed the galaxy. No, I said. We broke it. Her lip twitched, not quite a smile. We improved it. I sat. What do you want? She gestured to the war table. Advice, clarity. You killed the Empire. Now it's our turn to replace it. But this time, no mistakes, no tolerance. We will finish what you began. I looked at her. Really looked. She believed it. She believed she was the heir to our blood-soaked throne. You think you're better than the Empire? I asked. We don't think, she said. We know. We don't tolerate corruption. We don't negotiate with war criminals, and we don't leave threats breathing. I leaned in. You're a mirror, that's all. A prettier version of the same rot. You weren't there when Ellie died. You weren't there when we lost everything. You grew up on the ruins and mistook them for a blueprint. Something flickered in her eyes. Contempt. Do you know what Earth is now? She asked. A soft hand, apologies, diplomacy. We don't need politicians. We need resolve. We need what you were. That hit deeper than I expected. Because the scariest part? I could see myself in her. A twisted reflection. A copy, only more efficient. She offered me a data pad. On it were Dominion targets, all threats to galactic unity, including human dissidents, journalists, alien leaders who refused to bow. You want my blessing? I asked. No. We want your insight, your legacy, your help. I stared at the list. It was long. Too long. You don't need my help, I said. You need someone to blame when this goes wrong. Her voice went cold. We need your decision. Are you with us or irrelevant? I stood, looked her in the eyes. I already died in this war, I said. But if I had the strength to die again, it would be to stop you. She didn't flinch, just nodded. Then we'll make sure history forgets you. I left that station knowing two things. One, the Dominion wasn't just a threat. Two, and no one else was going to stop them. The galaxy was too tired, too fractured, too scared of humanity to stand against its dark echo. So once again I found myself alone. A soldier without a side, but not without purpose. Because if I had to kill my own legacy to stop what we'd become, then so be it. And maybe, just maybe, Ellie would forgive me for that. The war should have ended with Abenrel's corpse floating in the void. It didn't, because when you build a revolution on fire, you don't get to choose what rises from the ashes. The Dominion wasn't a faction anymore. It was a system, with fleets, colonies, uniforms, and millions of loyal believers who'd never seen war, but worshipped the stories told by the broken men who'd survived it. Men like me. They took our rage, our grief, our truth, and turned it into policy. Dominion-controlled systems began replacing Earth's diplomacy with armed doctrine. Trade partners turned into tributaries. Ally was just another word for obedient. And the name Ellie? They used it like a damn anthem, not to remember her, but to justify what they were doing. Ellie's Law, they called it. Zero tolerance, zero mercy, zero delay. They built a statute in her name on Virex 4, Dominion's new capital. A bronze child with outstretched arms and a rifle at her feet. I stood in front of it and almost threw up. She would have hated it. And maybe that's when I knew what I had to do. It took 6 months to plan, 3 near deaths, 2 betrayals, and the last of my credits. But I got into the core of Virex 4, not as a rebel, not with an army, just as a ghost. They weren't expecting me. The Dominion had declared me dead 3 years ago in a raid they staged themselves. It was easier that way. Clean. Controlled. History's too inconvenient when the founders are still breathing. Their main command center was buried inside the planetary crust, half bunker, half cathedral, surrounded by fanatics and firewalls. But I'd been fighting systems since before these kids could walk. The same tricks always work: anger, fear, and truth. I slipped in through the industrial sector, stowed away inside a Dominion supply crawler, broke the driver's neck while he took a piss behind a plasma vent, wore his uniform. Walked past checkpoints with dead eyes. They don't question confidence. Once inside, I made my way to the Chamber of Order, the Dominion's war room, where Lyra Wren sat on Reeves' old chair, staring down into planetary maps and kill orders like she was building a better world from bone dust. She didn't recognize me at first, not with the gray hair, the scars, the tired walk, but when I stepped into the chamber, uninvited, unannounced, every officer turned, and the silence hit like a gunshot. She stood slowly. "You." I nodded. "Me." She signaled the guards. They raised rifles. I raised my hands, then dropped a data drive onto the floor. It slid toward her across the polished stone. "What is this?" she asked. "Truth," I said. "The kind that kills empires." She stared at it, then at me. "Explain." I smiled, and it hurt. Everything we did during the war, every secret, every lie we buried to make Earth look clean, it's all in there. The war crimes, the backdoor deals, the black sites, the purge lists, even Reeves' orders. Her face didn't change, because she already knew. "You don't have the reach to spread this," she said, "and no one cares anymore. The galaxy's moved on." I stepped forward. "Not everyone. There's still enough people who remember what the Empire did, and they'll care when they realize we became worse." She lowered her voice. "You're a relic, a traitor to the cause." "No," I said. "I'm just the last one honest enough to be ashamed of it." She stared at me like I was something to be dissected. "You don't get to choose how you're remembered. History already chose for you." I shook my head. "No, you chose. You made my grief your weapon. You built a machine out of pain and stamped her name on it like a brand." I looked at the mural behind her. Ellie again, but not smiling. Just hollow-eyed and glorious, a martyr twisted into myth. "She wasn't a symbol," I said. "She was a child, and you buried her in your propaganda." Wren tilted her head. "And what now? You assassinate me? Blow up the chamber? Think the machine dies without its head?" I pulled the trigger. One clean shot. Her blood sprayed across the mural behind her. Then I looked at the officers frozen around the table. Some of them stared at me with shock. Others, with understanding. One by one, they dropped their weapons. Because they'd known too. They just didn't have permission to say it out loud. I turned back to Wren's chair, sat down in it, accessed the comms, and opened the Dominion's channels to the galaxy. My face filled the screens across 1,000 worlds. "This is not a threat. This is a confession," I said. "The war didn't end with victory. It ended with disease. We infected peace with our trauma. We infected justice with our grief. We built another empire out of broken promises and dead children." I leaned closer. "And it stops now." Then I sent the files, the real ones, everything from Ellie's death to Wren's indoctrination centers, every atrocity we committed in the name of freedom. No filters, no edits, just the truth. I stood, walked away from the chair. Outside the chamber, sirens wailed. The Dominion was dying, not with war, with memory. And as I stepped into the corridor, a voice crackled over the speakers. It was Reeves, an old recording, buried deep in the Dominion archives. One they'd kept for morale, but now it played like an epitaph. "We remember." That was the last thing I heard before the explosives I planted in the reactor core went off. A flash of heat, a wall of silence, And then, nothing. I don't know if I died that day, or if I'm just part of the Whisper now. Some say the Virex blast wiped out half the Dominion's leadership. Some say I escaped in the chaos, hiding somewhere in the asteroid belts. Some say the galaxy collapsed into chaos again. I don't care. Let them guess. Let them argue. Because in the end, it doesn't matter who wins. What matters is who's willing to lose everything to stop the wrong people from winning. Ellie didn't choose to be remembered like this, but if her name means anything now, anything real, it's not vengeance, not conquest, it's warning. We're human. We never forget. But maybe, just maybe, it's time we learn to forgive, even if it kills us.